Good morning, good morning. And the camera is not working. Goodness gracious. I ordered myself a new cord. I'm probably gonna have to switch off of my beautiful EOS webcam for a little while until that new cord comes. And there we go. All right. Hopefully that stays. I have been having some issues with it more this morning. It seems that it just doesn't want to work, but that's all right. Good morning, Twitch fam. Good morning, Twitch Hero Alex and Fool Killer. Welcome once again to the morning show of the Poetry Studio. My name is Joseph. That whooshing sound, that windy sound, is just my air turning off, so that should be away in just a second. Today's commissions involve 2 more Christmas commissions, one for speechwriter, and the magic appearing hat. That's true, because the camera, I didn't put my hat on until after the countdown ended, so it was freeze framed on when I didn't have my hat. I should do that more. That would be kind of fun if I could do that. The magic appearing hat. I could do a TikTok on that. I've been recently trying to get a little bit into TikTok marketing based off of what Gary Vee's said about the success of it. But I am writing a poem for a speechwriter, and I am writing a poem about someone whose birthday is too close to Christmas, and about the gift giving debacles that happen with that. So, as always, if you have a poem idea or a poem topic, feel free to drop it in the chat. This is just a fun place for us to be able to write and celebrate and have fun. If you have not already, feel free to follow or potentially subscribe if you're so interested. We have some new followers. I'm going to be starting to celebrate some new followers. I'm going to celebrate some also legacy followers. We had some awesome DJs that followed the stream, including DJ Little Fever and DJ Missile. And over the past day, Lanto Ashore yesterday had appeared on the stream, and K May 77 have also followed. So thank you everybody for following the channel. Really appreciate it. My biggest goal here is to show the the beauty and opportunity of poetry to be able to make anything light up like the sun. That's the whole point of the exercise. To inspire and to maybe to turn poetry into a slight psychotechnology, to be able to unlock things that we didn't think we could before. I love that word, psychotechnology. Twitcher Alex says bubble tea was great. I was busy in both your stream and Akira's though, so I'll do you need me to do a reread of that? You probably were pretty busy flipping levers and knobs and turning switches, but I am glad that you enjoyed it. I actually can't reread it right now because it's tucked in one of my folders. Can't get to it, but I'm glad that it landed, and I'm glad that you were able to help me flex my muscles. The challenge now is to make sure that I don't have to always go too much on Wikipedia to be able to look some things up. I have to sometimes tuck the phone to the side when like a person talks to me, but he said, no worries, we're having a call. I'll hear it again. And we are having a call. And that call hopefully will be today. So that'll be good. And yeah. So let's get started with our reading for the day. We are continuing to feature Brian Sonia Wallace, aka Rent Poet. Pay no attention to that Alex behind the curtain, says Fool Killer. I like that. Alt-Tab, do this, and then I'm going to do Control-4. So if the computer magic works perfectly, this is great. I was going through Rent Poet's Instagram looking for poems for our session today when Rent Poet, this poem really stood out to me, not merely because it is on a cursive typewriter, but also because there is a real sense of regrowth that happens in this poem. Except I forgot to turn off the music before we started rolling into this. So I have to do that first. Is my shortcut's not working? I don't think my shortcuts are working. Alright. I have these nice transitions. And I'm going back to my poem. Okay. So, I would say that I so-called titled this poem Buried. Because again, Ren Poet does not title his poems, and I love some of the lines of this one. Very motivational. Especially as we are in the dead of winter. I buried you in the backyard between maples in September. Thought you dead till May when the pea shoots turned to jagged branches. And your head stared into my window, a canopy or a reflection. Do you forget you are a seed, that once you are grown, no part of what you were will be recognizable? Will you tend the garden of yourself? Do you dare brave the soil? One more time. I buried you in the backyard between maples in September. Thought you dead till May, when the pea shoots turned to jagged branches, and your head stared into my window, a canopy or a reflection. Do you forget you are a seed, that once you are grown, no part of what you were will be recognizable? Will you tend the garden of yourself? Do you dare brave the soil? That image of the garden and a person's soul, self, understanding, mind, very familiar image in poetry. But I love the daring and very brief shot that this poem takes into that space. Very quickly giving us those images of the worn trees. I look out my window now and I can see a lot of those jagged, sharp edges of trees losing their leaves, sticking up like in a very unnatural way. I feel that trees without leaves look, except if there's snowfall. That's the weird thing about me, is I think that snowfall is a very natural place for jagged-edged trees, but when there's no snowfall, they just kind of look weird. Like it's kind of like that fall, stale, waiting where are the leaves? When you could see some green grass on the ground, why are there not green leaves in the trees? Very interesting, beautiful poem. Thank you again. I actually had a chance to talk to Brian a little bit yesterday, and I finally told him that I ended up started reading his poetry, so he's gonna be shouting that out, and we're gonna be getting back into his book, which I highly recommend for people that are interested in. Oh, where did I put his book? Here it is. I highly recommend this book for anybody that is interested in learning more about street poets and what we do. The Poetry of Strangers is an amazing story of his experience typing for people across America. Essays and some poetry, which we've been reading. Fool Killer says, that reminds me of something I heard that blew my mind, but was obvious. That you cannot have a garden without a man to tend it. Blew my mind. That's good. I like that. And it does. That the inherent definition of a garden is a tended area. That I'm trying to think, like, because basically an untended area would be something more like a grove. It could be something more like a, grove's not a right word, but like a, I don't know, Oh goodness, what's a good word for an untended garden? Like it's basically like a clearing, or um, an opening, a meadow. A meadow is um, very good. Twitcher Alex asks, so here's a question. Have you ever read a poem that you liked so much and that inspired you to create a poem on the same topic? Or recreate the same theme, feeling, but in your own style? That is a great question. There's a lot of reaching back. Um, Let me bring back the music while I think. Excuse to do something. I think so. I have talked a little bit on the stream on occasions about how William Wordsworth is an inspiration of mine. A transcendental romantic, turn of the century, 1900s-ish, late 1800s poet. And his poem, Tintern Abbey, is kind of a long form encapsulation of what I like to do a lot of times, short form. That was probably one of the most inspirational poetry moments for me, and that happened all the way back in high school. Other things that inspired me, there was another one that I was really thinking about. I actually had this project where I was going to create an epic poem. It was going to be on the topic of addiction, and so the Iliad and the Odyssey and the Aeneid inspired me on that, but I never finished that project. There was one more, and it's escaping me. One very distinct example when a poem just absolutely knocked me on the back of my feet. It has to be one of the poems from this artist Ben Fama, but I can't remember what the poem was. But it was a good poem, and it was very So Ben Fama is another writer, and I have his collection of poems. He was one of the few what I would say like MFA-esque writers, which with great praise to people with MFAs, but I'm kind of talking about some of the very difficult to understand poetry of literary journals from colleges. I had a lot of trouble understanding a lot of those poems, but his poems were a little bit more understanding. That was back in my dark phase, though. So Ben Fama likes to write a lot about technology and the despair of civilization, with a great emphasis on the LA culture. Now, I know that seems really, really in the weeds, but LA has a very interesting culture, and it's really interesting to see how Akira the Don, the one whose music is playing, the one whose live streams I like to watch a lot, pushes back against that a bit. That there's this, everybody goes to LA to be an artist, or a filmmaker or an actress, to get into that type of lifestyle. That seems to be kind of the idea behind LA. And so he was one of the first people that I saw really take a sarcastic approach to that. But that was back when I was a sarcastic writer. So he inspired me, and I still have his poetry book. And one day I could come on here and I could do some pretty sarcastic, sharp-tongued poems. But they don't really match my style anymore. I hope that answers the question. But that's so funny, making me think about Ben Fama's poetry again. I can't remember the name of the poem what he wrote, but I just remember it was this really interesting blend of technological sadness is probably what I would call it. But it wasn't melodramatic. It was very it was very, very much a tonally prophetic. Very prophetic. I'll one day try to dig up that poem. It's sitting somewhere. Man, I can't believe I don't know where that poem is. But there's so many poems that people have written that really have inspired me. So many styles that have influenced me. I could really lose count. Especially when there are poems to write. So, gotta bring up the email on this one. So we're going to start today with the speechwriter's poem. And I printed the prompt, and then I left it on my printer, and I'm wearing shorts right now, so I'm too embarrassed to get up and go to the printer because you guys will all see me wearing shorts with a button-down shirt. So I have to now bring it up on my email on my laptop, if that makes sense. And I did a lot of attempted recreation in that kind of Ben Fama style when I was going through that dark period. A very standoffish, the world is descending into chaos type of feel. But it got more personal after that. Like, I got more into a personal vibe. So this poem that I will be writing. Fool Killer says it's not the strangest combination of attire. I do it more often than you would realize on these streams. I'll wake up and I'll be like, I'll do my run after the streams. And so I'll get into my running clothes. This is Under Armour. And I'll be ready to just change like Batman into, you know, my sweatpants and jogging shoes. And sweatshirt. So, poetry commission. I can actually snip this and I can show you guys. And here we go. Control 4. So we have here this poem topic. My boyfriend is a speechwriter. I'm looking for a nice gift to him in a poem form. She requested a poem from each of the With Ink poets. We have a collective group of poets I'm part of called With Ink Typewriter Poets, and she requested one from each. He certainly believes in the power of words, particularly in the context of speeches. Though he wants to write for himself someday, he currently writes a lot for other people. From my perspective, I think it's lovely he's able to give people a voice and articulate things so well that when they don't possess that talent for themselves. So I'm hoping to get a poem on the subject of speech or words or giving others a voice. So I think that's really cool. Streamlabs. Steve Disco Newsom says he's late to the party. You are never late to the party. The poetry is just always happening. You are never late to the party. So let us get started with this poem. Now this poem sits on a very small piece of paper, a quarter sheet, because that's what the person pays for the charge for this through the website. So I have to not assume my usual length. A poem for a dabbler, only dictations, an interesting challenge. Fool Killer is dropping poetry in the chat. That was cool. A dabbler in dictations. There you go. See, autocorrect tried to, but like only dictations is also part of the story here too. Both times it was poetic. Just try to roll right into it. I already thought of a different way to start the first line, so let's stop that. Rewind, rewind, rewind. I don't have a title for the poem yet. Now what's interesting is the three poets of this collective, we're all going to kind of do a comparison after this is all said and done. This will be really neat. A line that's coming to me right now is the line Catalyst in the line in one of the Cure's songs, Catalyst from Terrence McKenna, which is the Create Your Own Road show. You know, the culture, the song about creating your own culture. The old traditional letter M instead of a comma. I think we can get away with that. Fool Killer says, can I recommend a poem for reading and hear what your thoughts are on it? If not, that's cool. Yes, absolutely recommend a poem for reading. There's a chance I would probably do it. Yeah, I could do it today. I got a little bit of a late start today, but that's all right. I'm just trying to find a resolution to this poem, and now I have this little bit of a problem, and the problem is called, where does the paper end? Sometimes I have to do this. What I'll do is I'll slide a paper in to kind of mimic how far along I'm at, and I'm definitely getting near the end. And I'm going to have to retype this anyway. Yeah, you can drop, and I think you can drop links in the chat. I don't think I have it set up that you can't drop links. That might be one of the reasons why the bots keep appearing. Maybe I should change that. As this magic transcends matter, we could burn all the paper. It would not darken these accents. Yeah, I don't want to do follower only mode, especially because I love hearing what people have to say and welcoming them in. Well, I like the poem, if you can see in its entirety, believe it or not, right here. I will have to retype this after the stream, which I'm more than comfortable with. But it gets the point across, and I like it. And I have to title it as well. The title of the poem is Speech. And I'm going to just make some of my edits right now. I'm not supposed to edit these, but I just need to. It's a very short poem, so it won't be much to retype it. And I also have to figure out margins. Speak on the shoulders of giants. Help take tall concepts, grand ideas at scale, and bring them lumbering into 10-point double-spaced sounds across the listening ear. You are mining their myriad ways for your own crystal catalyst, for the story of the storyteller, because this magic transcends matter. We could burn all the paper, and it would not darken these accents. Language love, we are all longing to hear. Continue to gather your stores. Ideas full of synthesis. Ideas silos full of synthesis. New words yet to be spoken. The reading was a little halting because I've been making edits as I've been doing it. I think I might actually retype this right on the stream. Continue to gather your stores. I feel like there's a line that belongs here. No, you know what? It's good as it is. Actually, this is where I could name drop the title. I like to do a title drop in the poem. Like, I like to always mention the title at a certain point because it links that title, that theme that somebody's been trying to get the whole time, and it gives a big signpost to the reader saying, hey, over here, this is what the poem's about. Go ahead and post it, Fool Killer, while I try to figure out the line that should go here. Because what I want to do is I don't want to synthesize. I want to kind of, okay, there's a lot I want to do with this poem. Let me take a break. All right. We are bringing up a poem on a fly, drinking out of his cup. Oh, I like this. All right, so I am going to Control-4. Should bring up the poem. So this was just sent to us by Fool Killer. I will read poems on the stream if you want to request a reading of a poem. I might take my other commission, and bring it to tomorrow. You can see right here, I know why the Caged Bird Sings is sitting right at the top of top poems on this wonderful website, allpoetry.com. I love poetry websites. They always have a really interesting flair to them. They don't like to follow the typical rules of web design because it's all words. On a fly, drinking out of his cup, William Oldies. Busy, curious, thirsty fly, drink with me and drink as I. Freely welcome to my cup, couldst thou sip and sip it up. Make the most of your life you may, life is short and wears away. Both alike are mine and thine, hastening quick to their decline. Thine's a summer, mine's no more, though repeated to 80. 80 summers when they're gone will appear as short as one. So I was just looking to see the so thoughts on it. Thoughts on a fly drinking out of his cup. So what's interesting, I love the humor that turns very quickly into that darkness. And his comparison to his human life to that of the fly. Definitely is one that, he's wondering about his own mortality here, and flies are probably some of the most mortal creatures on Earth because they're easily swattable, easily catchable, as apparently Akira is able to do in one of his videos. As I saw a couple videos of him he caught a fly in right in the middle of a DJ set, and so he, life is short and wears away. Both alike are mine and thine. Both alike are mine and thine is a hard line because in the tradition of an older poem and an older, more classic poet, he's being very vague with mine and thine and the language there. But I think he's thinking about the cup because we have 3 major images here. We have, well, actually 4. We have the cup, we have the fly, we have the reader and his life, which doesn't appear very literally. Well, actually, it does. He says most of life. And then we have the summer. And the interesting thing about the cup and the summer is that unless you are in some bottomless bar somewhere, you drink something and then you finish your drink. So the fact and the fact is you start to drink something and then you finish drinking something and then you go, oh, well, I'm done. And he's comparing that's part of the reason why the drinking is there. But there's another interesting thing that happens is when you think of a fly drinking out of a cup. Could thou sip and sip it up, make the most of life you may? The key here is that the fly can't. The fly is smaller than the amount of water in the cup, and as a result, the fly will never be able to actually take in the fullness of life, just like William can't either. Though in dines the summer, mine's no more. Though repeated 80. 80 summers, when they're gone, will appear as short as one. And so at the end there, a fly only lives a summer. The lifespan of a fly is several months. So if you ever see a fly, take pity, because it will die soon anyway. Believe it or not, when I sometimes have flies that are caught in the house, I'll just give up searching for them, because in a couple of days they're usually dead anyway. They don't have nutrients that they can't go out to the wild and do what they do as a fly. 80. So a score is 20 years. And so he's talking about how he'll probably be 60 years old. But regardless of how he lives those, they'll appear as short as the mere one summer of the fly. Do I agree with the message of the poem? No, I think you can get a little more out of life. But I think that it's still true. The funny thing about poems is they can show a facet of life, and you could say, well, that's not the facet I'd look at. It's not a question whether the poem's right or wrong. It's a question of, oh, okay. I didn't get the chance. I can't see comments when I'm looking at this, but I can see comments on my phone down here, so I'll respond to the comments in a sec. But you can look at a certain facet, and it can resonate with different people more than it resonates with others. For me, I'm really big on trying to seize life. But the thing is it's also good to contemplate death, as Alan Watts says. This is a fantastic contemplation of death. This is I would say this poem even borderlines on Stoic. Because the truth of it is that no matter what we do, 80 summers, when we are old, we'll still probably feel like a snap of the fingers, just like this fly. William captures all of this in 2 stanzas. Very, very powerful poem. And that's, I think, the one key with poetry. And it's not that it shouldn't be something that utterly frustrates the individual. But the idea is that, the big joke is that the curtains are sometimes blue because sometimes the curtains are just blue. And the idea is that you write a line in a poem, and sometimes it's just self-referential. Sometimes it's just true. Like, this is what that line means. But sometimes it is good to try to go deeper into the images. It's sometimes really good to really dig deep into to see what is this image trying to say, and what does this image mean, and what could this image mean? And think of the cup as life, and what does that look like to you? Once you start to, I actually made a comment with a bunch of poets. I was on a call yesterday, that the point of poetry is to break reality, to allow you to understand truth better. And the reason this might resonate with you is because this shows you, this is a very quick, straight to the point understanding of the futility of death. And Fool Killer, if you've been doing anything Stoic, this would fall right in that line. That's at least my take on the poem. I like it, and I think it's a great poem to read. And I appreciate you putting me onto this guy, William Oldies. I wrote him down. What do you think of the poem? Beyond the fact that it just resonates with you. Feel free to comment if you're also reading this. If you saw something different in the poem. I'm merely trying to interpolate the words. I don't claim myself to be an expert on them. And if you saw something very different or you even disagree with my interpretation, bring that in there. That's the amazing thing about poetry. It releases us not from truth or from right or wrong, but it releases us from that You know, it needs to just be X. It could be X, Y, and Z all at the same time wrapped around. It breaks matter because matter can only be one thing. This typewriter could only be typewriter. But in a poem, this typewriter could be, as the horror poem had it, the machine of my demise, which I have to get back to that poem. I think that we're going to call it there. I know that Akira probably hasn't started streaming, but I am not going to be doing a raid today. But the cool thing is today I'm going to be checking out other Twitch streamers. Let me see if there's anybody. Actually, let me see if there's anybody else online. Just a good check to see if there's anybody else online. Well, DJ Noah Wan is on. So, and actually, the Lady Writes is also on. So I could do a raid for the Lady Writes if she's still streaming. Let's raid another writing streamer. I'm gonna have to go to the Akira stream very soon after that anyway, but it'll be good to say hello, and it'll be good to make community. So I want to thank everybody again for being here as part of the stream. We'll bring our music back up as we prepare to leave. I want to thank Twitcher Alex and Fool Killer and Steve Disco Newsome all for dropping stuff into the chat. Thank you again so much. Fool Killer for sharing his poem, the poem of William Oldies, on a fly drinking out of his cup. And what I might encourage you, Fool Killer, a little bit of a challenge, is as, you know, to kind of take things here and to connect them. Think about how if this poem is really resonating with you, what would you write that would say this same message? How would you write this poem? Because Twitcher Alex suggested, you know, they asked a good question. What poems have inspired you to write? And then dig into that theme a little bit. Challenge yourself on the theme. Challenge the theme of the poem. Or encourage it. Build it up. Make it larger. You know, like I'll tell you, one thing that we need to all realize is how short life is so that we appreciate it more. But like, also, I mean, like, it's funny, as I wasn't mentioning Gary Vee, but like, his thing about how life is short is, well, he has it actually. He has a thing, 3 words, you're gonna die. And it's a very encouraging thing when you really twist that out of a poem. So if you come up with something, send it my way. I'd love to share it on the stream, talk about it, if that's something that you would feel comfortable with, or work with it within yourself. Write and dwell on that topic and use that poetry to be able to help bring more meaning out of it. Poetry can be a real psychotechnology. Thank you again, everybody, so much for being here. And as the sounds of harp see us off, we're going to put in a raid for the Lady Writes. Thank you again so much for being here. You all have a wonderful day. And as always, if you have any questions, want to see anything on the stream, go after that Instagram link and pop me a message over there. You all have a wonderful day.